All right, we're going to take this once again from the top. Thank you for joining us for the new release rundown for this week. This is the first episode of this, so we're trying out something new. We're going to be covering games that have come out in the past couple weeks that we seem noteworthy. We're joined by Andrew Sagel, who is the manager of Mox Bellevue. If you want to tell us a little bit about the Mox retail experience.
Oh, absolutely. So Mox Boarding House is a fantastic game store that has a restaurant attached to it. We have 2 locations, both in Ballard and in Bellevue. And we cater to gamers in a way that may not have been done so much before. We have massive libraries of games, a wonderful space to play in, great restaurants. We're open every night until midnight. And you're welcome to come in and try out many of these games. I think all the games we have on the table now are available to check out from our library, always for free.
So if something piques your interest and you are in the Seattle area and you want to try these, then you can just go to Mox and borrow them from your library?
Absolutely, yeah. Come on in and try them out. That's another purpose of why I'm here, is because we care a lot about people really enjoying the games that they play. Not just walking out with the game, but actually enjoying it. Getting a chance to try it in the space is something that helps us guarantee that you're going to actually enjoy it, and also helps us find out the things you like and dislike about games.
So that sounds wonderful, but what if I live in Portland?
Oh, but what if you live in Portland? Well, you're in luck.
Oh, great.
Because you asked, and only because you asked.
You're welcome, Portland.
You know what? I'm going to open a store in Portland this year. I'm doing it.
Wow.
Calling it now.
That's bold.
Yeah. Store in Portland. Mox is coming to Portland at the end of this year, so keep an eye out. It's going to be a fantastic, another fantastic space. We've gotten to see some of the plans for that, and it's pretty exciting.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, so this is the point where we crashed last time. So
Right.
cross your fingers that it's not the problem. But
Right.
you brought a number of games that, again, came out in the past couple weeks. Stuff that you thought was interesting, the kinds of things that you would share with me if I were to show up at the store and ask you what the new cool thing that I should check out is.
Yeah.
So why don't we pick one, and we'll just kind of go through the list and talk through some of these games.
Okay.
And let people know what to keep an eye out for.
Sure. Okay, so actually, I think I'm going to start with this game here. This game is called Noctiluca. I'm going to set it up right
Okay,
here.
so Noctiluca.
Right.
I'm going to read the back here.
Sure.
So tell me about this.
So Noctiluca is a game where you're actually collecting these jellyfish. You're going across this big lake in different orders and trying to catch as many as you can to fill jars, and actually they seem to have some sort of healing property that you're trying to sell, get points for and sell off.
Okay.
One of the things that's first off catching about this game is the art to it. The art is very lighthearted. It has a lot of colors that catch the eye, and because it has the age range, it's like an 8+ game. A lot of
So
people.
it's a very
can be
family-friendly kind of game.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The art is what brought me into this game.
Okay.
But then when I started learning about the mechanics of it, finding out that yes, a lot of people can play this, but it does have a depth of strategy to it.
From what you're describing, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Lanterns. Is it? But it has dice on it. Like the back cover, has a lot of dice rolling.
So the dice themselves, many games that have a lot of dice, some people like for the chance of luck being involved in it, but this is less so about lucky dice rolling. The dice are set out and represent the jellyfish, and the numerical faces on them do actually come into play, but you aren't affecting them after the game is set up. So after the game's
set. Do you roll the dice at all?
Yeah, just for the setup of the game. And that's it.
So it's like seeding the lake or the ocean with the jellyfish.
Right, and then you use that information to make strategic choices as you go.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause it kind of reminds me of like a deck building game where you would change, like one game from Dominion to the next, the cards that you have available might change, which might make the value of one card higher or lower from game to game depending on what other cards are in play.
Right, and similar to that, there's a lot of reactive gameplay in this. When you, for example, in Dominion, if you take a card or one card is now emptied out from like the market, in this, as people are collecting more, you're actually going to sort of gain these resources from a different side of the board. And you actually mentioned lanterns as well. Something that this game does quite well is that each person is included in every single turn. So there's no downtime for anybody.
That probably makes it even more suitable for a family game.
Absolutely.
Where you don't have to kind of worry about the kids paying attention when it's not their turn.
Right. Because everyone is being passed these dice to then use until the resource is out. And then you move on to the next step and you keep going and moving through. It also has a small design element that I really appreciate in this game. Is halfway through, the board gets reset and turn order is reversed. That's a subtle balancing portion of it, whether it is with the number of players or who has what resources. It's a nice little bit of design that helps balance the game. That's not just overtly shown on the box. So yeah, Noctiluca.
Someone in chat was asking how this plays for folks who might be colorblind. I mean, I'm not colorblind. I don't know if you are. I don't know if you played with anybody who is.
You know what? I haven't yet.
So it looks like the dice colors, at least on the back, are purple, blue, green, and orange. So they didn't pick green or red. Like, unfortunately, I'm not really a good judge of what kind of get through some of the colorblind things. There don't appear to be like symbols or so like some of the other tricks that graphic designers and game designers will use to get around it would be like symbols or shapes or something that isn't reliant on color. It doesn't look like it has that.
No, unfortunately, the dice themselves, the only thing that differentiate the dice is the color on them. So that could be a bit of a challenge.
It looks like the spaces on the board have shapes inside them, but not the dice themselves.
That's correct.
So I have a feeling if you are colorblind or you're playing with folks who are colorblind, you might need to just kind of check the back of the box and see if you can distinguish between at least the 4 different colors here. And if you can, then it sounds like it might be okay.
Then you'll be totally fine at that point, because the way the collection of the dice work is off of the numbers that are rolled instead of the color themselves, and then you use the colors to distribute them among your sets and your potions or your jars that you're filling. So it can be a little difficult. Again, Derek made a great point about checking the back of the box. If you can differentiate the dice there, then you should be good for the entire game.
Yeah, they were asking about green and red specifically. Doesn't seem like there's any green and red. So if you can distinguish between orange and green, that's
the only one that's going to be close.
But there are different types of color blindness, and I don't know how that would stack up. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about Noctiluca?
I don't think so. I think we got through most of the really cool points about it. It is good for a family. It plays about half an hour. But I think this is something that's suitable not just for families. An entire range of people can play this. You can play this rather competitively. And if you are a very, I don't want to say spiteful player, but a player that pays attention to your opponent's resources, you can actively go into this game to try and form a checks and balances against other players.
It does really feel like, it feels a lot like Lanterns to me.
Yeah.
Like you're doing a different thing, but it sounds like a lot of the experience is very similar.
Yeah, especially everyone being involved, getting resources every turn. I think it's going to be an enjoyable game that's played not just once, but multiple times by whoever picks it up.
And this is a release from Z-Man, so it's part of the Fantasy Flight extended family. And the designer is Shem Phillips. Do you know if they've designed any other games?
I'm not sure offhand of Shem Phillips' other games. But this one is a really good start.
Great. Well, maybe someone in chat is more familiar with Shem's work. What do you want to cover next?
Actually, I want to pull up the Call to Adventure here. So this is a game that it came out actually a few weeks ago, but it was so exceptional. I wanted to make sure that it got some time here and shown. This is a game that you do score points in. Like many games, there is a singular winner. However, this game itself is most fantastic because you build a story as you go through it. Unlike other games that have story building elements to it, this provides you with the portions of your tale. You have a hero, you have a motivation or a path, and you have a destiny, and all the different cards with beautiful art on them.
Can I open this? Take
Oh,
some out.
absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like the back of the box talks about building a hero, crafting your hero, picking, origins, motivations, and stuff like that. So is this kind of like, like a board game version of playing D&D or something like that?
It's sort of like going as an overview of someone's character over a long campaign.
Got it.
Just as an example, you might be a farmer and who is conscripted into an army, and then you come back as a wonderful leader and you make a claim for the crown, something like that, that ends up building a story for each person that's playing. The way I've seen it play and the way I've played myself is at the end of the game, everyone tells their tale. And it ends up being just a really fun experience, regardless of whether or not you are specifically winning. Another really interesting component to this game is that there will be symbols that you use to overcome challenges. Instead of dice rolling, they've replaced dice with a very similar style.
It's like these like rune stones of some
Yeah,
kind?
they're rune stones or bones.
Okay.
And these will have.
It's got a nice little tray to keep everything organized too, which
yeah,
is,
you'll need it.
Yeah.
You'll need it.
Looks like it.
But you try for challenges in this game based on your character skills, trying to get traits, overcome challenges, defeat adversaries.
So, how do you roll these? Like, there's no bag to put them in. Do you have to provide a bag to reach in, or do you just shake them and throw them?
You shake them and throw them on the
All right.
table, and then you see what runes have been cast and whether or not you've overcome the challenge.
Okay.
Clever thing I like about this game also is that the dedication towards the story is that no matter whether or not you have succeeded in a challenge, you always get something back. If you don't succeed, you gain experience.
Well, because we learn from our failures.
Absolutely. And that in this game just pushes that forward.
Cool.
So it's a wonderful game. It plays up to 4 players. And
so what other games do you think that this would be like? If someone were to be like, well, would I like this game? What games would you ask them? Do you like this other thing, to kind of gauge that?
Well, this does play into a lot of different RPGs that people have played. If you like, for example, I do have a lot of people that have played Dungeons and Dragons, and they really, really enjoyed that. They don't know what else that they will enjoy. This is a really great game to go to if you want to branch into board games from role-playing games. It still gives you the agency to make choices over your story elements. But you can also get like really grindy and min-maxy. If you want to get the most points, you can get that. And no matter what, you're going to be coming up with a good story.
So if you're the kind of person who likes making characters,
if
you're the kind of person who likes the story, and you like fantasy themes, and you want to have a fantasy adventure, it sounds like a good choice.
Yeah, that is your call to adventure.
Or if you just like throwing runes, apparently.
Yes, if you just like, and it's super satisfying. The components they chose to use are really good.
Great.
Yeah.
What else would you like to cover?
I actually want to jump on this one, Cat Crimes over there.
Cat Crimes. My wife will be happy already.
Yeah, this game is.
This is adorable.
It is adorable, and one of the very significant aspects of this game, made by Think Fun.
Okay, one of the very significant aspects of this game is the cats' names are Pipsqueak,
Yes.
Duchess, Sassy, Ginger, Tomcat, and Mr. Mittens.
Yes, and they all have a specific seat at this table. So these cats, one of which has committed some amount of cat crime.
Please tell me this is eventually going to be like it was Sassy in the boardroom with the catnip.
Actually, effectively, it's although it's always the same room, you're finding out which cat is in the seat that commits the crime. Okay. A significant thing about this game is that it's a single-player game.
Oh, okay.
There are not a lot of single-player games out there. Not a lot of games that have been developed just for one player to play. But you can play this with one or more people working as a collective investigative team.
That feels a little too stereotypical for the crazy cat person game. If you've got a bunch of cats
if you have
and want to
six
see who
cats and
committed
one
the crime,
person.
but you don't have anybody to invite over to play.
Cat Crimes is your way to go.
All right.
It is a very fun logic game where it will give you clues about, you will find that someone ate the bird.
Okay.
And you have to find out who was there, who wasn't there, where one person was sitting. This cat was 2 spaces away from another one, that kind of thing. And you have to
So it's a
deduce
logic
where
puzzle
it
kind
is.
of thing.
Yeah, but they work it out in a way that there are difficulties that really do ramp up.
Oh, interesting.
You can, I think the steps are appropriate from easy to, it's like an easy, medium, like hard, and expert level.
Sure. So like the example here they've got a, who swallowed the fish? And they say Ginger was sitting in front of the bird cage. Tomcat was sitting to Ginger's right. Pipsqueak was sitting across from Tomcat. Mr. Mittens was sitting in front of the mouse cat toy. Duchess was sitting across from a mouse cat toy. And Sassy was not sitting next to Pipsqueak. So this really reminds me of like the old like word problems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like of this person was close to this one, which did that. So you just kind of have to puzzle out who's the odd cat out who committed the crime.
Oh yeah, and it's great because they have the physical components, so you can actually move the different cats around and work through the deductive reasoning both mentally and visually. This is a game that I am going to be showing to people, especially after another game called Outfox, a wonderful, wonderful deduction game for families, younger ages moving up and working through different types of mental skills, including deductive reasoning and logic puzzles. This is a wonderful jump.
Yeah, it says there's 40 different cases, players 8 to up, so it sounds like it's another really good kind of family game.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What else are we covering?
Since we're talking about moving from one game to the next, what's the next step? Outfox the Cat Crimes is really wonderful. This is a game that I think is going to be actually extremely popular. And the reason for it is because of another extremely popular game called Ticket to Ride. This game is called Trekking the National Parks.
Wasn't this on Kickstarter?
I
think it
believe
was.
So. Anyone who has enjoyed Ticket to Ride, I think, absolutely has to look at this game.
If you see the back, I think you can get to what you're getting at.
Right.
It looks like you're making you have that kind of traditional map of the U.S. with different routes and things like that. So are you putting together a route of national parks?
So you're sort of doing the sightseeing. The map does look very similar, but you're not claiming routes themselves. You are trying to be the first person to see a national park. You are gathering different cards that let you move spaces. If you have enough cards of the correct type and you're at that park, you can camp there or you can claim that park, giving you different bonuses throughout the game.
So like instead of routes, it looks like you have destinations you need to get to?
Correct.
Okay.
So there are like just a few parks that are available at a time, and they get refilled as they are claimed. So as you go through this game, it also has a little educational little blurbs about it. Fantastic photography of the different beautiful parks in the U.S. And it does have a significant amount of strategy. And back to that spiteful player, it does have
Everybody knows they go to parks.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows they go to parks for sure. There's an element of this where if you land on another player, you actually send them directly back to the beginning of the game. That's not a huge detriment, but it can be if you think you know where someone's going. So there's an element for a lot of different players here.
So it sounds like if you're a parent trying to convince your nerdy child that they should go on a family vacation with you, you prime them with this?
It would be a good primer. Yeah, it would be.
And then you find out how spiteful they are when they jump on your head and try to send you home.
Right. If you destroy their hopes and dreams in this game, though, then that might be a little bit of a hurdle for you, a little bit of a challenge.
I have a feeling that would suggest a deeper problem in your family that you want to address.
Yeah, but that's a different show.
Okay.
That's a different show entirely. Yeah. But trekking the national parks, if you get a chance to play this, absolutely come in and play this. We actually just talked to some distributors yesterday, and we got a demo copy of this at both of our stores.
Okay.
So be sure to check this one out.
It looks like this is a Mensa Select winner too. So, the Mensa Society seems to think this is a really, really good game, which suggests that it has a great deal of depth, even though it sounds like it's fairly accessible to.
Right, and again, similar to Ticket to Ride, it's something that you can pick up and play rather quickly. You can jump into this game and start playing it, but it does have a couple different, I guess, choices, very strategic choices you're going to be making in the game. And again, not to keep harping with Ticket to Ride, if you have played that, there are some similarities in this, certainly, that will make it even easier for you to jump in directly to this game.
That does remind me, if anybody's in chat and has questions about these particular games, let us know and we'll try to answer them as best we can.
Yeah.
So, that is Trekking.
Trekking.
What else do you have for us?
I'm going to have to bring up this game called Godsforge.
Okay. That's a real nice cover. I like that cover a lot.
Right.
It's striking, pretty, has an occult symbol, so really it's just hitting all my buttons.
Oh, yeah. I'm
going to open this one too.
Yeah, absolutely open it. The reason I know this game is because it came in and I picked up the game probably 6 times just looking at the art. That's what draws me into a game initially, is the aesthetic, the art to it. They have a very, very clean look to the symbols on their game here. And I'm going to be showing a few other components to it. Another step that they took in this game, the aesthetic to this game is continued throughout all the components. It's not just cover art. Every single piece of art on all the cards bring you really into the game, get you this similar feeling.
So what is the game?
So the game is where you are trying to be the last person alive. You are actually battling over the final forge where magic is able to be accessible rather. And it is a simultaneous play game. Okay. Which is something that I don't see in a lot of different card games. You have different monsters like a Leviathan, or an Emerald Treant, or golems and spells that have certain requirements. There is a dice rolling element to this. Everyone is going to get a...
These are the colors of the dice, in case anybody is curious again about kind of color blindness or recognition.
Right. So you're going to be rolling these dice. You're going to have a hand of cards, and then everyone's rolling at the same time, and look at their pool of now resources to expend on cards.
Yeah, the art is gorgeous. Like this thing, whatever the hell's happening there is cool.
Oh yeah, and all the spells have a similar rune style to them.
Yeah, there's like a kind of a geometric style to some of them, and then other ones seem to have like a 2-color. I don't know, it's almost like a classy look to it. I like it.
And this is a game, especially for anyone that's wants a little bit of a shorter play to it, but if you enjoy something like Star Realms, or even if you're a Magic the Gathering player, and you would just want something quick before you're going into your next commander pod or something like that, Godsforge is actually a really, really fun choice.
So when you say quick, how quick?
Probably 30 minutes, I think is probably the average here. But the game has design elements in it that keep it from stalling out. It's one of the things I really enjoy. If we're playing, let's say you and I and another person are playing, and we inevitably kill this other person because they're out of here.
Yep. They were a target. We teamed up. We're both spiteful players.
Despite the spiteful player, we're going to touch base on that in a moment. As soon as one person leaves the game, the damage automatically ramps up and ensures the inevitable end. However, the spiteful player, you can only attack the person directly on your left. And you can only defend from the person directly on your right.
I really like that mechanic. That I think I first encountered in Vampire: The Eternal Struggle and Jihad back in the day. I really love that. So this is up to 4 players.
Right.
I really love that mechanic because that means at the beginning of the game you have another player you can't target and you're not defending against.
Right.
So they're a natural ally in a sense. Does the game give me the ability to interact with them?
In so much that you can destroy other people's creations.
Okay.
You can choose to target one player or another with certain spells and effects, but as far as attacking and defending goes, it's no choice, which also, again, takes away the agency of you know, if you feel like in some games a person feels like, oh, they're kicking me while I'm down, I'm behind, I'm being picked on, or something like that, this game doesn't give you a choice. It's actually similar to a game called Cosmic Encounters, where you don't get to pick who you're attacking. It's just happening, and then you have to convince someone to help you.
But I mean, that does sound like, you know, if you know we were playing and there's a neutral player, I guess, you know, I could try to cut a deal with them that like you're attacking them, so I'll attack you and try to kill this monster, which might alleviate stress on them. So maybe then they could turn to the person. Well, yeah, I like to cut deals. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's not as much of a political game that happens here because everyone puts their cards face down and they're revealed at the same time about what's happening that turn. But that keeps a lot of the politics out of the game and just goes straight
I'll
towards...
find a way to jam it back in.
Yeah.
I'll do it. To answer a question in chat, someone wanted to know whether the cards were thick or if they need sleeves. These cards are already in sleeves.
Yes, they are in sleeves. That's because this one happened, like most of the games in the library, as well as my personal copies, I sleeve everything just because I want the cards
You're a sleever.
Yeah. But the card quality itself is...
Yeah, it feels solid.
It's standard.
Your sleeves are real nice.
Oh, yeah,
Do these come with it, or are they separate?
Those are separate.
Okay. They just got a nice texture to them.
Yeah. I think
it's almost like you know how sleeves work, and
Right.
You work at a game store.
Oh
where you get
yeah,
to experience
these
a lot of
are the KMC hyper mats, which are fantastic. But the card quality is decent on its own. But I would encourage anyone, especially if you're going to be lending out the game like we do. We lend out our games to hundreds of people.
in a restaurant.
In a restaurant. Yeah, you want to protect that game as best you can.
Okay.
So that's Godsforge.
Great.
The art brought me into it.
That sounds really cool
The
so
mechanics kept me playing.
I think that's the one that is most enticing to me so far.
I do want to then go to. Do you want to go heavy or light next?
Heavy.
All right, downfall it is. Let's grab downfall over there.
Actually, yes. When you said heavy, I thought you were talking about mechanics.
Oh,
but I don't think you are.
no, it is both.
I don't know if that's picked up on chat. But
figurative and literal. That this is the heaviest game that I brought out this week. Downfall is about the, let's get real, inevitable downfall of our planet.
Okay.
Sorry. Maybe that should be for a
You're
different
getting
stream.
heavy.
Yeah, I'm getting really heavy. We're going to talk about some dark subjects. But this is actually the sort of the nuclear fallout and radiation of the planet. And then you're coming up to see how you can survive without the levity of like Fallout, the series. So
Fallout was too happy for you.
yeah, Fallout was a little too cheerful, so they really dialed it back with Downfall here. This is a longer game. This can go maybe 3 hours, but this is a game where you are going to be carefully planning out how you're getting resources, discovering the different regions around you, because there's an undiscovered sort of fog of war effect to it that you're revealing as you go.
Looks like hex-based tiles.
Yes, hex-based tiles with terrain on them that produce resources. But you have to manage your resources. You have to manage your workers. You have to manage your bunkers, whether or not you have airships. You have to make sure the food is stored away before certain global effects take place. And there is actually a combat element to it as well, but only if you choose to.
So if you're the spiteful player, it's definitely...
If you're that spiteful player, you can absolutely do that. So make sure you actually arm up.
I feel like we need a graphic
characters.
of like how spiteful can you be in this game.
Right.
Have
yes.
that on screen just to warn people.
So there are a lot of elements that go into play here. There are a lot of avenues to score victory points, whether or not you are reducing radiation, whether or not you are actually sustaining your survivors, that kind of thing. Loads of cards and abilities and upgrades all come into play. And then all the players also have a rough estimation in the timeline of when this game is going to end. There are world events that keep happening as it gets closer and closer to the end of the game, and those events continually get harsher and harsher as you get towards the end of the game.
So in the end, does everyone die and you just needed to have the most points when everyone dies? Or does one society get to live?
It is based on the number of victory points, so everyone can technically live. Most people,
Some people just lived better.
some people live better. Some people live shorter.
Sure.
It is a 3-player minimum game, though. It can go up to 6 players. So you're not going to be knocking players out of this game.
Sure.
Some players are just going to have a bad time as far as their colonies are considered. It's a good time playing, but there are certain times when, oh no, that radiation really kicked up.
So mechanically, like, we've talked about some of the high-level themes, but I don't think it sounds like there's a lot of mechanics going into there, and it might be a little difficult to summarize them all. But are there other games that this like feels like in play, or who would you recommend this game to?
So I would say this is a game where you're going to have to be looking to the future turns to plan several turns ahead, even to
So
try and
like
plan
very
out what you can do.
strategist players.
Right. I might even say someone that, even though it's not hex-based, Great Western Trail.
Okay.
Really fantastic game that because you do multiple routes on that game, you have to make choices that are going to be affecting you later and later on in the game.
Great Western Trail is, has a very like high esteem for like a very well done, complicated Euro game.
Yeah. Yeah. It is difficult to jump right into it.
How much randomness is in this?
I would a small amount.
Okay.
A small amount of randomness because everyone has the same. Actually, you all start with the same deck of cards. It's about what order those cards are drawn and used in. Included in this in these decks, though, are cards that advance the game state towards the end. So you can have shorter games, you can have longer games. Another game I would mention might be something like Terra Mystica, where you are looking
another very
towards,
famous kind of complicated game.
Yeah, it's a complex game, but you're looking also again at the territories. You're looking several turns ahead. You're reacting to what your opponents are doing. Oh, well, I wanted to gather resources, but Derek has these armored civilians that are coming in to also
there are
gather
perfectly legitimate
resources.
reasons for me to deploy them there that involve non-aggression against you. So this sounds like it's the kind of game, you want to plan out a couple turns in advance. You want to be able to have, different systems kind of interlocking, plan contingencies and synergies and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a light game. It will not be an easy one necessarily to jump directly into if you haven't played any game similar to it.
But
however,
it sounds like it's really rewarding if that's the kind of thing that you're into.
Yeah, the investment
Cool.
Seems like it pays off in this game.
Great.
Yeah, so definitely check out Downfall when you get a chance there.
Okay. What else?
We're going to swing over into the light side with Kiwi 10. I'm actually going to open this one up here. This is a racing game, actually, that has a very adorable aesthetic to it.
Do we race through the box?
Yeah. Actually, hold on, we can. I think we can. We have this board here. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yes, there's a dark zone. But you are actually using these adorable
man.
pieces.
Yeah.
And these are as they come in the box. And you, whoops.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why we can't have nice things. That's why we try and protect our games in the library, because there are people like me that just
Are just bad.
Just bad. You do a dance at the end of the game, you spike the pieces on the ground.
Nope, don't do that.
Please, with your home copies, enjoy that. However, this is a racing game where you are trying to get to this flower from a nest. Choosing the different characters
That one's
here
for Nelly.
will allow you to either move faster or slower, but will also allow you to catch the branches as you're climbing through.
So you're a cute little like animal or cute little forest spirits like racing through the tree?
Yeah.
From the nest to a flower maybe?
Correct. Yeah, you start over on one end that is nest, and you're going through all these spaces to try and get to the flower at the end. There are a number of markers that get set out at the beginning of the game. I'm going to see if I can place a couple up here.
To answer the question in chat, these are painted from the game. Like you didn't paint these yourself.
Oh, not at all. No. That's how they appear. And actually, that's one thing I was really impressed with. The detail on them, it's not extreme like anything you would find from like Games Workshop or anything like that. But they are assembled, they're painted, and they do look really good. There is detail. There are even like, you can see little details on the leaves that they're holding.
Was it intentional that you brought another game that had runes?
No.
Okay.
Totally unintentional.
I was giving you a chance, but that's fine.
No. I wanna keep my integrity and my honesty here.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell them the truth, no matter what.
Yeah, tell them the truth. It's hard. This is a dice rolling game, though, so there is a certain amount of luck involved. All of these runes, of which there's, I think, like 18 or so, get placed out on the board that have different effects. And those runes are placed randomly, though, although they are revealed. What makes that fun is that every game that you set up is not going to be the same. Every time you play this game, it's going to be a little bit different. This is a rather quick play, though. So you can play up to 6 players in this small little box. And I think it's going to be pretty enjoyable to go back to it again and again.
What do you do in your turn? When you're racing through, there's some dice. It looks like a little die that has like little bursts of wind.
Right.
So what do you do on your turn?
So on your turn, it's pretty straightforward. You roll your dice to see how many spaces you move on top of your base movement. Now, the smaller of the characters moves very quickly. The larger of the characters moves slowly.
And they're holding these leaves to kind of catch the wind, it looks like.
Right, and they're moving forward. However, when you stop on a space, you then must have to grab onto a branch.
Okay.
That's where these other dice come into play. And when you roll those, if at least one of those dice is higher than the number of spaces you moved, then you grabbed onto a branch.
Okay, so it's a little risk-reward kind of thing.
Right, the faster you move, the harder it is for you to hold onto a branch. If you ever roll under that, you move back some spaces. If you roll 2 X's, you move back even further.
Okay.
So there is some randomness to it, but even as you're moving forward and moving back, all the different runes on the spaces can be activated when you land on them. So there is...
It sounds like this would also be a really fast game.
Oh, yeah, this is going to play in 20 minutes.
Even that, really?
Yeah, because there are elements that will send you back. There are also cards certain players have that you can actually cause another player to like have to re-roll grabbing a branch, something like that.
Some people in chat are comparing this to Odin's Ravens or to Kaido. Do you feel like that's a good...
Actually, yes, I would say closer towards Odin's Ravens.
Okay.
Odin's Ravens is fantastic. 2-player only. So I'm really happy to have this game here because this supports up to 6 people in a similar environment. You do get to spend cards to mess with your opponents, try and make them miss a branch and fall. You can actually push them forward if you want them to land on a rune that might, catch them up in a web and miss their next turn, that kind of thing.
And somebody also was asking whether this would be a good game to play with kids.
Oh, I think one of the nice things is the minis in them. They
They're
are
gorgeous.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. They're already done. And actually, I want to show the rule book.
Oh, these rules might be too complicated.
Yeah, this is the entire rule book and the extension of the rules for the entire game. The inside just tells you what it does.
And this is just in a different language.
Yes, it's in English and in French. I believe it was designed in Canada. So you have those couple options available. But yeah, the art aesthetic throughout the game is brilliant. The components go to match.
Okay. What else?
I brought actually Morels and the expansion Foray. The reason I brought these two, Morels is a game that came out actually long ago, but it is a game that came back into print somewhat infrequently. It was a highly sought after game at certain times and is wonderful for 2 players. The chat mentioned,
I've heard it recommended a lot for like people who are going to Mox for like a date or something like that, and they want a game to play together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like actually the chat had mentioned Odin's Ravens, Morels, if you like Odin's Ravens, definitely check out Morels. But the designer opted to make an expansion to it called Foray. This allows you to add additional players to the game. It adds different event cards. Morels is a game about foraging for mushrooms, so everyone here in the Pacific Northwest, that's your demographic. But if you want to look into it, absolutely check it out. Foray adds cards to it like event cards like wildfires or big rainstorms or a farmer picking specific mushrooms, that kind of thing. So you can continue to play with 2 players if you'd like, but you can add more players. A similar thing that we talked about with the simultaneous gameplay from Godsforge. This game actually, you set the actions that you want ahead of time. and then see how they get played out in turn order.
So if Morels is the kind of game that you would recommend if somebody's like, hey, I want a good 2-player game. Morels is a very common go-to suggestion for that. How does Foray play into that? Like, when would you recommend Foray specifically to somebody? Only if they like Morels and want to expand, or are there other games that you feel would kind of pull you in here?
There are a couple other games that might pull you in. I would think that something, as you mentioned before, all right, I'm sorry, I talked about Dominion and Star Realms earlier. There is something that is similar to that in that there is a market of cards available. These market of cards are the mushrooms you're foraging for. If you like that style of seeing what's available and sort of planning and making your choices, then Morels, I think, would be a really solid choice for that. Going into Foray.
Is it a deck builder, though?
No, it's not a deck builder. So you get the
you're
cards.
Just collecting.
Yeah, you're collecting. You're spending your actions to put down pans, cook mushrooms, sell mushrooms, gather more, pick up baskets, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So if you like that market of cards, there's a lot of reactive gameplay where that market of cards will be changing every single turn. Every card that's taken is replaced. Mushrooms decay every single turn. Different event cards can accelerate that from that happening as well. So if you enjoy Morels, Foray also adds a lot of different elements and layers and strategy, different rules, different things that will affect the board. So it does add, I think, a much, much deeper strategy to the game, along with a couple other rule sets.
Cool. Yeah. Well, so I believe we've covered all the board games. So you have a non-board game that you brought as a surprise.
Yes, surprise. There is a hot new title out.
Really?
A lot of people have been picking this one up, actually. It concerns two major elements in the fantasy world, both Dungeons and Dragons.
Together in one book?
Together in one.
For the first time?
For the first time ever.
I don't think that's true.
I'm going to have to do some fact checking.
Okay, great. We'll get back to it.
So this is actually the Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This is one of the recent books that Wizards of the Coast released with Dungeons and Dragons. Now,
people were really excited about this because it references a lot of Greyhawk stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of lore that is referenced in the Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And it's used for a number of things. Some players want just the meat of the game in a book, where you get more stats, you get more monsters, you get more magical items, that kind of thing. And some people want either the lore or a campaign where you can get to run your players through. This actually gets you a little bit of both. These are actually my favorite.
So it gets me new stats that I can then run my players through with?
Absolutely. Actually, yeah. It has
great.
actually some, more than I think most of the other books do in the back. This one is sorry, I was pointing.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out what our offstage directions
I
were
was just teasing.
No one gets to see. No one gets to see.
It. No,
He's
but
a little possessive.
This is a really great book because it's not all one campaign. It is a bunch of different little adventures. Yeah, no, pull it closer to us.
No,
it's right off. There we go. It gives you a bunch of different options for sets of characters that will say, oh, this is for this level character. It's a one-shot, effectively, or a small scenario.
It seems kind of like, what was the
Tales of the Yawning Portal.
Yes, that one.
Yes, Tales of the Yawning Portal. This is the book that's most similar to...
Because Tales of the Yawning Portal also took older D&D adventures and updated a number of them.
Yeah, so you get to go back to some of your favorite places.
Are all of these old adventures updated, or are any of them totally new?
You know, I'm not positive on that. I believe there are new ones as well in here.
Because I know the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh was the particular old adventure everybody was really excited about. I want to say that Isle of the Abbey I'd also heard, was an update of some other things.
Right, and similar though to one of the older books, or one of the books they released, The Curse of Strahd. It's not the exact same adventure, just updated with stats.
Yep.
They've added narrative elements to it, made it more exciting in different little pockets that reference old lore as well as new
So it looks like the
stuff
book
as well.
has the setting of Saltmarsh itself, so it gives you kind of like a new location to maybe base adventures out of.
Right.
Presumably these adventures. And then we have the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, the Danger at Dunwater, Salvage Operation, Isle of the Abbey, Final Enemy, the Tamaraut's Fate, and the Styes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 adventures, and then looks like a pretty hefty appendix on ships and naval combat, and then magic and monsters and things like that.
Right. So this gives you, as a DM, a lot of options. Some DMs like to run off of modules. They have it. Some DMs like to write their own material. They have material for you to work off of. They have details in the world that you can reference to. You have monsters in this world that fit into that environment that you can build your own stories and craft for your own players off of. And I've used these actually just because I tend to like to write the stories myself to help build something that will interact with my characters. But I certainly look towards these adventures to get ideas of how a villain interacts, different rooms, traps, setups, that kind of thing.
The ship rules in there make me think that this might be a good pairing with Tomb of Annihilation, because that had a lot of, or could have a lot of naval kind of navigation around the jungles too.
Yeah, it's always something tricky when you're doing something that is traveling or larger than the miniatures oftentimes people use, or the 5-foot grid. But this book does a good little bit about detailing how to go about that as a DM.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Well, is that everything that you wanted to cover? Is there anything you want to mention about the games that we maybe lost in translation, or if chat has any other last-minute questions?
Yeah, if chat has questions, absolutely ask. Next week, we're going to be coming back with more. And I think I might try and give a spite player level for each game that we're playing, just so we know who you are, whether or not you're going to really want to play this game.
So somebody's asking about co-op games that are coming up. We're not like, this show is not necessarily about games that are about to be released, but maybe in closing, if you are aware of any co-op games you might bring next week, we can give us something to entice them.
I'm not sure of any co-op games that right now on my radar, but I will be keeping that in mind when I'm making my selection for next week. I'll see if I can get a couple co-op ones in here.
There was an announcement about a new version of Pandemic, a new variant of Pandemic, but I don't think we have a ton of details on that yet.
Yeah,
and that's a ways off for release.
Yeah,
too.
And if you like Pandemic, you have a lot to choose from already. That's out there, especially if you have done both the Fall of Rome and
Fall of Rome's real intriguing.
Fall of Rome is very cool, and I actually really like the Reign of Cthulhu Pandemic. So if you haven't tried those out, give those a shot.
I think Iberia and Rome were really good for us. Those are the variants that we liked. Cool. Great. Well, Sagel, thank you for coming out. Thank you for bringing all the games. We really appreciate you help us build this kind of segment and share new games with people. Wonderful. So I hope that the viewers liked it, and let us know what you think. And hopefully we will return in future weeks to bring everybody up to speed with what they can expect to see in their local store if they head out there over the weekend and try to pick up something new.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, if you get a chance to come in to any Mox, either in Ballard or in Bellevue, try one of these games out. And if you can't make it out here earlier this year, then try it out in Portland.
Yep, and then wait until later this year in Portland. Don't go to anywhere else.
Nowhere else.
Thank you very much.